Paul also mentions here the sad reality that the world that we live in, what does he say about the world we live in? He says that it is crooked and that it is perverse. And it's interesting that Paul says this to the church in Philippi. And I was thinking about it, and really every generation as they live for the Lord can say, I live in a world that is perverted, that is perverse. And certainly today in our age, I do believe that we have an amplified perversity that happens in our culture, and I think that the internet has done that in large ways. Things that were done behind closed doors are now done openly on the internet. And so I think that we're just subjected to it more. It is much more clear that we are in a perverse world. Currently, we live in a world that is very similar to Isaiah chapter 5, verse 20. You guys probably know this one. Isaiah 5:20 says, "Woe to those who call evil good and good evil, who put darkness for light and light for darkness, who put bitter for sweet and sweet for bitter." And over in Acts chapter 2, verse 40, Peter, as he was proclaiming the gospel, said the following. He says, it says, "And with many other words he testified and exhorted them, saying, 'Be saved from this perverse generation.'" So the world around us is perverse, it is crooked. I'm going to make a statement that I don't typically make. And for those of you that are regular attenders here, you know that I'm not political from the pulpit. But I do think it's necessary to make a few comments for Christians in light of our recent election. Just because the candidate won that many of us support does not mean that we are now somehow in a better position as a nation spiritually, or that somehow we are magically not as far from God as we have been. Don't go to sleep, believers. I was greatly encouraged last Sunday. We had probably 50 people that stayed, maybe 40 people that stayed for our prayer meeting for our nation last Sunday afternoon. And there were great outcries from people's hearts that God would work in our nation. And I fear that the church will just be lulled right back to sleep in light of what's happened recently. I just caution you all not to be that way, but to constantly pray for your nation and your people and your leaders and just every facet of our nation. We absolutely need God's work in our hearts. I want to remind you that our school system is still pushing a perverse agenda. Our government is still filled with corruption. Homes are still falling apart at a rapid rate, and abortion is still widely accepted and pushed as a valid option. We still live in a cultural war that is raging on in our nation, and we are the ones that are to be the light of the world. And so I sure hope you're living that way. We must maintain our witness. We must maintain our steadfast desire to see the world come to know Jesus. Our mission is not political, but is instead spiritual. And we need to remember that we are in a spiritual battle for the world around us.